more and more victims of war and poverty. The Middle East has seen a surge in patients seeking medical aid. Iraq alone has 2.4 million people without access to any form of medical assistance. In Afghanistan, due to the lack of funding and devastating conflict, the health service is at breaking point. Imam Hussein Charity aims to help provide a better future for these impoverished patients, aiding them with finances for their prescriptions as well as dialysis of their kidneys. You can help our brothers and sisters with purchases of prescriptions for just £20, and for £200 help a patient with a dialysis procedure. To donate or for more information, visit www.imamhusseincharity.com.
So what does Imam Hussein TV mean to me? It's a hard one. I'll be totally honest with you, Imam Hussein TV is my life.
It's been part of my journey to develop myself, to improve my learning and understanding of many subjects that I never knew before.
And also, as a parent, it has helped me bring up my kids, bring them up in a way where they can, in the future, become servants of the Holy Prophet.
Imam Hussein TV is a reminder of religion and Imam Hussein and how I should be a better person, even though it doesn't come naturally.
They really help me connect with Allah. They really help me connect with my religion, understand religion. Shows like Ahkam SOS, as I'm helping film, help set up. It just inspired me to learn about Islam, to encourage me to follow my deen and to spread it. I go to university, I spread that message throughout there. I try and share that message that I learn here.
The biggest blessing of my life was being able to serve and work at the same time.
So Imam Hussein TV to me is like a home away from home. Over here when I come in, even though everyone has their own opinion of Imam Hussein TV, as a staff member it's different, and for me it's like a sense of family. It's hard work, struggles, but at the same time there's a lot of creativity, there's passion.
When I received that one email from that one viewer saying thank you Imam Hussein TV for providing me with live feed from Karbala, thank you for giving me Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam in my home, that's what makes my job so precious to me.
There's a movement and a campaign for us to provide a better service for those people in the West, to have the message of the Ahlul Bayt in English, and also to bring Imam Hussein to the masses and to the world.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah wa barakatuh, and welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Now, this is a live show. We do take in your questions. If you have any questions on any topic whatsoever, please send them into the WhatsApp number below. And if you want to watch on different platforms, there should be a QR code here somewhere. And I'll send you to our Linktree page, and over there you can see the different ways of you to watch Ahkam SOS. Now, we don't need to know your name, or we don't need to know where you're asking from. Just send in your question, and inshallah myself and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer. If you'd like to call into the studio, 0203-515-0199, and inshallah we'll be able to hear you and discuss and answer your question. I'm your host, Mohsin Shah, and joining me is Sheikh Ali Maash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
How are you, Sheikhna?
Alhamdulillah.
Did you have a good weekend?
Great, alhamdulillah.
Fantastic. Sheikhna, my first question is in regards to the Imam of our time and all infallible Imams. Some could argue that, oh, the Imams, you know, they came over 1,000 years ago. They came, they they lived their lives, they left us with some, teachings and so forth, and now they've gone. Is it our responsibility to try and recognize or look for or find the Imam of our time who is amongst us now? Or should we just, get on with our daily lives, and when he comes, he comes?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. In Kitab al-Kafi, there's an interesting hadith that Abu Basir, he comes to see Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, and the Imam asks him with this question. قال لي أبو جعفر عليه السلام, Imam al-Baqir says to Abu Basir, هل عرفت إمامك? Did you recognize your Imam? Do you know your Imam? قال قلت إي والله. Abu Basir said, yes, by Allah, I have recognized my Imam, the Imam of my time. It's you, al-Baqir alayhi salam. In other words, he says, إي والله قبل أن أخرج من الكوفة. Yes, indeed, by Allah, before I leave the city of Kufa in Iraq. In other words, that I know you as Imam, recognize you before I actually meet you. So when I came to you, I have the belief that you're the Imam of my zaman and my time. فقال عليه السلام, the Imam replied, حسبك إذن, that suffices to have this aqidah. Basically, we have to have this aqidah of, number one, recognizing the Imam in our hearts. I'tiqad, belief in that Imam that exists today, even if you can't see him in a disappearance, in occultation, in ghaibah. And number two, to basically to utter, by speech, to testify, as we do with the shahadat and salah, for example, testifying that verbally. And number three, practically, to actually implement this belief in the real world. In other words, to do the salihat, amal al-salihat, to implement the good deeds and prevent and avoid the bad deeds. Then of course we have a hadith with this regard from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, that he stated, من مات لا يعرف إمامه مات ميتة جاهلية. The one who dies without recognizing an Imam
of his time,
exactly, in his time, then he dies the meat of jahiliyyah, the meat of ignorance, as those who died in the jahiliyyah worshipping idols and statues and asnam and so forth. So it's important as part of the aqidah to recognize that we have an Imam, even though he is in occultation and behind the scenes, behind in disappearance. That doesn't mean that we have to abandon and denounce, na'udhu billah, this aqidah, because sometimes Allah's proof on earth should be in occultation and disappearance from the enemies of Allah Azza wa Jal. Because as soon as he appears within the people, of course, his enemies would, of course, assassinate and kill him. So that's one of the hikmah in which Allah Azza wa Jal disappeared or kept his hujjah away from the public scene, so that he would prepare him for the right day and time. As we have with Musa alayhi salam, he went to the occultation about 37 to 40 days, and he left his Khalifa Harun to be within the people, in which people of course deviated from the right path. So there's a hikmah always behind these events, and in which Allah Azza wa Jalla would one day bring this hujjah and يظهر الحق ليظهره على الدين كله, to reveal and make this visible one day, that the truth would take over the world, inshallah.
Inshallah. Shaykhna, question coming in from YouTube. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Can one intentionally skip the Friday prayer because of the fact that the Imam who leads Friday prayer does not have good Arabic pronunciation? Thank you.
In overall, the Friday prayer is wajib takhyiri. In other words, you have the choice to pray the Friday prayer with the Jama'ah, with all the conditions of the Salatul Jumu'ah, or to pray Salatul Dhuhr at your comfort at home, for example, Farada by yourself. So it's not wajib to pray it, but it's up to you. If you want to pray it, then of course you can attend. You can skip 1 week, or you can just avoid it if you think that you don't want to pray it because you got a job or something. So it's wajib takhyiri. You have the choice. Pray Salatul Dhuhr or Salatul Jum'ah with the Jama'ah, with the, attending the khutbah and so forth.
So, Assalamu alaikum, Shaykhna. I would like to know, what is the limitation of men looking at non-Muslim women?
In overall, one should not look with the intention of lustful looking. على كل حال, one should avoid such intentions when they look at the opposite gender. If there's no need, then why should we look, for example? If there's no need, why should I look, for example? So one should be very careful when it comes to looking at the opposite gender with a pure intention, and avoid, let's say, continuous or constant looking, let's say, in the appearance of the face, the details, and so forth.
From YouTube, Shaykhna. Assalamu alaikum. What's the ruling on learning about other beliefs, religion, and magic, and for the purpose of education and polemics? Magic, I don't think is gonna get you very far, especially the magic that's available today. But let's say other beliefs and other theology and so forth, for discourse and talking and dialogue and so forth, Shaykhna.
What some scholars say that try to learn not by going into diving into the belief and the aqeedah of others. Let's say philosophy, for example, because you might fall into the belief eventually of that specific aqeedah, and you might come up with your own opinions about Islam and some of the acts of Islam. For example, we've seen for the past half a century, those who studied, let's say, abroad, came back to the Muslim countries with the mixing their non-Islamic studies with the Islamic studies. And that's how philosophy and mysticism came into Islam in the 7th century, where they've translated the Greek books of philosophy, and they brought it to, in the Abbasid time, into Islam, and became part of the Islamic syllabus and literature, that's sadly. So one should be very careful to study it, to be able to refute and answer, awkward questions, to respond to those who have issues with these, let's say, doubts and so forth.
Shaykhna, from YouTube, if either or both partners have a disability which is highly heritable, would it become haram for them to conceive children? That's an excellent question, Shaykhna. So, if I have, let's say, the famous one, I guess, is Huntington's disease, which affects the Y chromosome, so only men have it. And what it means is that it's a disease where you will die before 40 years old, you will die. Now, let's say I have Huntington's disease, God forbid. Then, should I have children and so forth? Well, I know if I have a son, a male, he will 100% have Huntington's disease. Likewise, with other people who have disabilities, diabetes or sickle cell anemia and things like that, that can be passed on down to children. Should they be allowed to have children, have offspring, or should they reconsider, or how should they go forward about having a family of their own?
It's a good question, but I think we need to research about this question, because this is something that comes into ضرر لا ضرر ولا ضرار and other rules of the fiqh, in which that if there's a ضرر, for example, severe harm, for example, would that be? I think we have to ponder and reflect into this question.
MashaAllah, more questions coming from WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum. Please, is it permissible to say the dua of the other sect? What I mean is, for example, the dua that we say when waking up or going to sleep. Thank you very much. From other madhabs within Islam, there are du'as and so forth, which they promote. Are we allowed to recite those du'as?
if those du'as have no, doesn't conflict with our aqidah, for example, such yes, dua, you can even make your own dua and recite. Why not? Dua is dua. You ask Allah Azza wa Jal for your needs. You can make your own dua and recite it, or you can take from the narrations how the Imams and Ahlul Bayt and the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited the specific dua for a specific issue.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. This is from WhatsApp. How do I convince anyone who refuses that the Holy Quran can be recited without wudu? I know it's always better to be in wudu, but it's permissible to recite it without wudu as well. Kindly tell me as to how I prove it to them. Thank you. So, not picking up the Quran and reading, but maybe hifz and reciting. Do you need to be in wudu for that, Sheikh? And how do you prove? What's the evidence?
You see, we have mustahabbat and wajibat. For the wajib acts, such as salah, of course, you have to be in wudu. It's condition. Tahara, purity is condition for the worship, ibadah like salah, for example. Other than that, if it's a mustahab act, then you are given the option to either be in tahara and purity, which is better, of course, be in wudu, to recite the Holy Quran, to memorize, for example. These are mustahab acts. You can actually recite it without wudu, but of course the rewards will be less in anyhow. So, I mean, it's up to you. Of course, the encouragement, the mustahab is to be in purity and wudu for any act. We even have one of the ulama who used to do the wudu and sit towards the qibla and open the books of the hadith and recite the hadith in this manner, respecting the words, because he would respect the words of Ahlul Bayt. These are, the qala, al-baqir, wa-sadiq, needs purity, needs attention, intention towards the qibla. So these are some ulama would act with regards to the hadith of Ahlul Bayt. So of course for the Quran, it's even better for the one to have wudu, of course.
More questions coming, Sheikhna, from YouTube. Is it permissible for my sister to marry a Sunni man, considering most sisters that do end up leaving the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt and their children grow up as Sunni?
Indeed, that's one of the conditions. The ulama say that in this situation she's not allowed to marry. If she would change one day her aqidah and her belief, I would always encourage that you would marry from the same aqidah and belief, unless you have the means, you have the knowledge that you can turn the other side and convert to the Shia of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, which has a great reward, of course.
From one of our viewers, if I join the Imam in Jama'ah prayer during the second rak'ah while he is reading the surah, and if he raises his hands for qunut, what am I supposed to do? As I'm in my first rak'ah?
You do exactly the same. You do the qunut. You have to follow the Imam. You can't keep silent, quiet, and you stand. You have to do the qunut with him.
Okay.
Even if it's first rak'ah.
I mean, the qunut is mustahab anyway, isn't it, Sheikh?
Yeah.
And am I correct in thinking you can actually do it in any rak'ah, but the second one is the recommended one to do it in?
I mean, they can't keep quiet when the Imam is reciting the qunut, so they have to follow the Imam.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Another question coming in from one of our viewers. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna, from YouTube. I missed a 4 rak'ah prayer in Safar and I forgot to pray it there, and now I'm at home. Do I have to do the qadha with 2 or 4 rak'ah? Okay, so the question is, Sheikhna, with Dhuhr, Asr and Isha, if I'm a musafir and these are qasr, but now I have returned home, but I didn't pray it because of my journey or it was difficult or whatever, I forgot. Do I pray the qadha full or do I pray as qasr 2 rak'ah?
If the qadha was full, you do it full. If the qadha was qasr, you do it qasr. Exactly. So you would do the qadha as you have left it. You missed it. So qasr, in this case, you have to pray qasr as qadha.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. When we do masa of the feet, do I do both feet at once or do I do it one at a time?
It's better to do it from the right and then the left.
Okay, one at a time.
Yes,
it's better.
It's better, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yes.
From YouTube, Sheikhna, Assalamu alaikum. Is it better for a Muslim who is struggling to resist sin, to isolate themselves in a challenging environment, or remain in a comfortable environment? So, a Muslim who is struggling to resist sin, to isolate themselves in a challenging environment, or remain in a comfortable environment.
In overall, if you think you can have the influence, you can guide others. If you're in public, then of course, come forward and offer your da'wah, offer your, I don't know if you have able to give lectures, for example, and or teach others, for example, the hadith or Quran, then of course it's better to come in public and guide others. If you can't, you don't have that knowledge, or you might be affected by others, for example, by their akhlaq, by their, let's say you have a corrupt friends, for example, they might affect you, then of course to be in isolation is better, to protect yourself at least from being corrupted.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykhna.
Salam.
Is playing cricket halal?
There's no issue with it now.
From YouTube as well, Shaykhna, what is the process of Shia girls to study in Iran? Shaykhna, we do get a lot of questions in regards to Hawza, the whole procedure. Should one go to Najaf? Should one go to Qom? Where's the best Hawza and so forth? In your opinion, Shaykhna, how for girls, for sisters, what is the process for them to study in Iran? Or should they study in their own country, find a teacher and go through the books here?
I mean, as far as I remember, there was a Hawza in Qom, specifically for sisters, where they come with their full hijab and study. Why not? It's a home of the Shia literature and the ulum of Ahl Bayt alayhim salam, next to Sayyidah Ma'sooma salamullah alayha. So yes, if you can observe your hijab and protect yourself, it's a great opportunity for the one to go and study the ulum of Ahl Bayt alayhim salam. If not, you have Iraq, for example, in Karbala and Najaf. I'm sure there's something for the sisters. Hawza, is there something if one can ask and find out?
From WhatsApp, Sheikh, I have a question. Someone's mum passed away and she saw a dream that she is grazing camels. And those camels are not usul. They have long hair, and she's telling her that you all should also raise camels. They'll grow up and they'll be helpful for you in the hereafter. What could this dream mean? I asked someone else, but I haven't got an answer yet. Appreciate those. Okay, first of all, unfortunately, neither I or the Sheikh are dream interpreters, and we cannot, there's no way that something like this we could discuss. However, one question I will propose to the Sheikh. Sheikhna, do dreams mean something? Is there a hidden meaning behind dreams? Well, the Quran shows Surah with Nabi Yusuf that he was a dream interpreter and he could, understand so forth. And in the community, we have certain individuals who have studied this science. But sometimes, Sheikhna, the dreams, 9 times out of 10, they don't mean anything. They're just your own conscious, your mind wandering everywhere. It's normally the repetitive dreams, the dreams that keep happening. For example, with Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he had a dream about slaughtering his son, it wasn't one dream, he kept having the same dream again and again and again. So what is the Islamic stance on dreams and dreams interpretations?
In overall, we have some dreams which are adghathu ahlam, as the Quran mentions. They're vain dreams. One should avoid them in terms of, let's say,
don't pay attention.
Just ignore it. Just carry on with your usual work. So don't pay attention to them. You have some dreams which are news or foretellings, and some of them bishara, giving you good tidings, glad tidings with regards to the future. And of course, the dream needs somebody who is an expert in being able to interpret the dreams. As you said, sometimes they are just repeated or just things that we just thought about it last night and we see it today, for example, tonight, for example. So one should basically refer back to the experts with this regard. It's a specific and expert field in terms for the one be able to interpret the dreams. Inshallah, I can try and find somebody who can interpret this dream, and inshallah, I'll pass it to you, inshallah.
From YouTube, Sheikhna, what do you think of tatbir? Let's look at it from a fiqhi point perspective. Is tatbir halal or haram?
You see, in overall, we have a قاعدة لا ضرر ولا ضرار في الإسلام. What ulama in overall they say that the minor injury or the minor harm is not forbidden. Otherwise, we're going to be all in trouble, to be honest. If this rule was to be applied, that everything that harms, it's forbidden. Then we have a problem now. For example, blood test. Sometimes you do it as a routine, annual blood test. And you're actually causing some kind of harm. There's a needle, sharp needle, and then you're giving blood. I don't know how much amount.
You can say the same about hijama.
Exactly. So
this
minor harm is not haram in Sharia. What is haram is to lose your limb, to cut your hands, for example, loss of limb, organs, for example, to disable your organs, for example. These are haram, in which the ulama discuss it. So just to, for example, causing yourself minor harm wouldn't be haram. We see that, for example, the butchers, the builders, how many times they injure themselves with the blades, for example, when they work, for example, with sharp, with rocks and so forth. And nobody says, oh, their job is haram. Sometimes even they cut their fingers, for example, accidentally. So nobody says to them, do not take this job, it's haram, because you might lose your finger, for example, as a result.
It happens, same with mechanics,
exactly.
Soldiers who work in the military, who put their life on the line, firefighters, their life on the line every time they go out and to serve. I mean, none of these jobs are haram or considered haram.
And then we have the ahadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam with regards to the jaza', severe grievance on Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. That is allowed on Imam Hussein salamullah and Ahlul Bayt. So they bring these hadith and the qara'in, and they say that at least it's allowed. If not mustahab, if not more mustahab, yani. There's encouragement, yes, in some cases by some ulama. So this is to do with the fiqh and the qawa'id al-fiqhiyya, in which would discuss this in depth.
Fair enough. Shaykhna, according to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sa'id Hakim, rahmatullah alayh, after marriage, the wife came to know that her husband is insane. Was this marriage valid? If it is valid, can the wife demand a divorce?
There is 3 ways for the one to depart his partner. Number 1 is the death. Then that's it. The woman would, for example, if she loses her husband, she would take iddah 4 months and 10 days. And that's it. She can get married after this duration. You have the divorce, talaq, again. She can, after the iddah, she can marry somebody else. And you have what is known as fasakh, which is the right to annul and to cancel her marriage, in other words. And that's one of the examples in which she can actually, because the husband is insane, be it before the marriage or after the marriage it happened, she has the right to annul her and cancel her marriage without divorce. Because there's a aib, there's a problem with this husband. You cannot live with such an individual who has this problem. So in this case, she can just do the fasakh of this marriage and walk away.
Shaykhna, what type of fish are we allowed to eat?
In the hadith by Imam Sadiq salamullah alayhi, he says, كل من السمك ما كان له فلوس. Eat the fish which has scales on it, on the body. That's transparent scales on the body of some of the fish, not all the fish. ولا تأكل منه ما ليس له فلس. And do not eat the fish which has no scales. In other words, it's a smooth, I'm sure you've seen it on,
there are some,
let's say, dolphins fish
dolphins
body.
like that.
It's all
Shark.
shiny
Yeah,
skin.
there's no scales,
Exactly, you can't eat that type of fish.
I see, Ahsant. We're going to go to a short break now. Shaykhna, join us after the break as we continue our discussion here on Ahkam SOS.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of
Is it
scholars at
permissible to
home.
plant trees by or
Was
over
Islam
the graves?
established based on peace and
Is it permissible
non-violence?
to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it permitted to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim
Is there
countries?
an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, call in on +44 2035 150199 or WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155. Alternatively, you can also email us on Ahkam SOS at imamhussein.tv.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Now, if you have a question you'd like to send in, and it can be a question on any topic whatsoever, maybe you have questions on money, inheritance, or you have marriage, or questions on dietary requirements and so forth, send in your questions via the WhatsApp. If you get the QR code there, that'll take you to our WhatsApp page if you scan that. Or you can call in 0203 515 0199. I've been told as well that you can call in via the WhatsApp number if you'd like to ask your question live on the show. And inshallah, myself and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer your question. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikhna, can a husband and wife kiss or hug, etc., one another in public places? For example, greeting and welcoming one another in the airport, which is quite common in Europe. With the opinion of His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The Sayyid mentions that it is not prohibited and haram for the wife and the husband to exchange, let's say, hugs. But they should avoid any act in which would raise, the arousal of the lust.
I see.
On lookers, those who are around them.
So what you could say was considered normal, or was considered appropriate.
Exactly. We've seen this, for example, a son meets his mother in the airport, and they hug. Normal. That's innocent hug.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between husband and wives when they meet, or between a son and mother, for example. It's very clear. So they shouldn't go too much to show that. Of course, it's a public place, and you have to basically consider those who are around you, kids, adults, and so forth. But it's better to avoid it if it reaches that stage of arousal of lust.
Questions coming in from some of our viewers. YouTube, what do you think about plastic surgery for women and men? Okay, let's make this a bit more appropriate. Sheikhna, plastic surgery for women and men, is this Islamically acceptable or not?
It seems to be, there's no issue with it. For those who, for example, want to have a nice, I think, nose job, is it?
They're called, yeah.
It should be fine, yeah.
I mean, for example, Sheikhna, some people require plastic surgery and so forth because they've got scarring, or they've been in a fire, or God forbid they've been in a fight and the nose has been broken, or this or that. It's like reconstruction of the face. Sometimes plastic surgery is required.
Yes.
But then other times, Sheikhna, they want to use it for, to beautify themselves a bit more. For example, they may want, to have a facelift so they look younger, or want to enhance certain parts of their body, make it look bigger and so forth like that. Maybe reduce fat in certain areas and so forth. Are these acceptable?
Yes, they should be fine, but the discussion is about if the doctor is a male and he's going to have the access into touching or looking at certain parts of the body in which. So, the way it's done could be haram in somehow.
I see.
That's the issue.
But in general, there's nothing wrong with plastic surgery.
It should be fine.
Ahsant. Sheikhna from YouTube, what do you think is the father's approval or grandfather's approval for a girl marriage proposal? Okay, is the grandfather or father's approval for a girl's marriage proposal wajib or mustahab or mubah?
Yes, most of the ulama, if not majority, I can say that they would ask this approval from the father or the father of the father.
Yes.
So they must approve for this virgin girl, of course. That's the condition. Otherwise, if she's divorced, she can marry herself to anybody she likes without going back to her father. So
I remember studying Kitab al-Nikah at Hawza, and I remember there's 3 permissions you need. First of all, the bride's permission. without the bride's permission, nothing can go ahead. Even if the father and the grandfather accept. If the bride says no, if the girl says no, they can't go forward. Furthermore, if the bride or the lady says yes, and the father of the lady says yes, and the grandfather he says no, then the grandfather has more authority than the father, and the marriage cannot go forward. So I mean, there's something for you guys to research, inshallah, and discuss. But yeah, the grandfather's approval is arguably the most important, and also the bride's. Sheikh, now someone's asked in regards to fish, can we eat shrimp? Shrimp is like prawns.
If it's prawns, rubian, as they say in Arabic, should be fine, yes. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. In school, we do music. What am I supposed to do in this case? This is from WhatsApp. A lot of Muslim students have this issue where music is taught, and it's a module that's not compulsory, but it's a module they have to take. If Islam has an opinion that music is haram and it's forbidden for someone to learn music, what can they do if their children are at school and they are to learn music?
I think the best way is the communication between the parents and the school, let's say teachers or head teachers, to be able to change this subject into something else. Let's say, let them do, instead of music, IT, for example, computing, for example, or art, or anything else. Speak to the school's management to see if they can actually change. Even if they say it's a compulsory subject, sometimes you can change this issue and something else. We have to talk to them, basically. We can't just leave it. And, that's part of our aqeedah, that we have to tell them this is haram, this is not permissible. And, sometimes they have also dance lessons. They teach the girls how to dance, for example. We have to speak to them. We have to try to avoid our kids going into such sessions.
Ahsant. Shaykh, from YouTube, if someone discovers after marriage a particular thing that is repulsive to them, i.e. smell, does that person have the right to reject them? Good question, but I don't think it's enough. So, Sheikhna, I've married someone, and later on I discover things I don't like about them. For example, bad habits. Maybe she's messy, or maybe she's, her akhlaq is not nice, and vice versa. It could be she doesn't like certain things I do. So it's not always the wife that's bad. Sometimes the husband is bad as well. So when a couple, they find out things that they don't like about the other person. Oh, he smokes cigarettes. I didn't know he smoked cigarettes. Or God forbid, oh, they drink alcohol. This was hidden from me, and I didn't know about this, but I can smell it on his breath now. I can, and so forth. Are these grounds for divorce?
You have the hadith in which encourage let's say, at least the wives, to observe patience. That the one who observes patience with her, bad-tempered or bad akhlaq, then she'll get such and such rewards, for example. We shouldn't really allow for such title to be in our house and our homes. Never ever mention the word divorce at all. Try to solve the issues peacefully by bringing experts in this field. If it's a community leader, if it's a psychiatric, if it's a Maulana, for example, to try to solve these issues. Otherwise, we're gonna pick and choose, and it's like changing our clothes every time. I don't like it, I'm gonna change it. It's human with human life. You can't just easily take off and change it. It's not gonna work like this. We have to understand that this is the dunya in which we are living. There are issues with it, ups and downs. We have to try to live with it. Otherwise, if many people we've seen this within the Western world, non-Muslims, that when he reaches or she reaches to a stage that, let's say, he's in huge debt, commit suicide. That's it. Just kill himself. So we reject that totally. That you have to have patience. You have to have hope. You have to work again, even if you have lost everything. Work again, and build yourself, and Allah Azza wa Jal would of course support you, inshallah, if you ask Him and seek His support.
Sheikhna from YouTube, interesting question. Sheikhna, what do you think of Saudi Muslims celebrating Halloween? Is it appropriate? Sheikhna, I'm not sure if you're aware, but it went viral on social media how in Saudi Arabia a lot of children and families as well was celebrating Halloween, dressing up in scary costumes, going around and collecting sweets and so forth. First of all, there are certain celebrations done in different parts of the world. As Muslims, are we allowed to partake in them or not? Secondly, here, a Muslim country adopting, a celebration from the West, is this Islamically acceptable or not?
I mean, sadly, I can say that in overall the Muslim countries imported the negative side of the Western world and ignored the good sides of the Western world. They're supposed to import the knowledge from the West, the technology that they have to make it themselves, to be producers in their country rather than just importers and consumers. Sadly, we have this issue that Muslims just import negative issues from the world, Western world. So we have to, of course, talk to them. We have to encourage them to celebrate their own grand and great, let's say, Eids and Mawalid and other great celebrations that we have, rather than imitating and copying things which are not really, even some of the Westerns would not actually accept it. So we have to.
I remember it was funny because there was a comment saying, "Oh, you won't let us celebrate the birth of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but you'll go and celebrate, Halloween," which is quite interesting to see their view on that. From YouTube, Sheikhna, what marja should Shias follow, my good sir?
The Shias are currently following, the Marja'iyya in Najaf, the Grand Marja'iyya in Najaf, and even Qum. So, alhamdulillah, we have no issue with this regard. We have Marja'iyya, millions are following them, alhamdulillah. So there's no issue. So,
and over my shoulder you can see there's so many different maraja. You guys can go do your own research, and you could come to a conclusion who you think is worthy of imitating, inshallah, in your Islamic fiqh. From one of our viewers, can I send my daughter under Bulugh age to ballet classes? That's a good question, because number one, they're under the age of Bulugh, and number two, the ballet classes, even though it's considered dance, there is a lot of balancing, there is a lot of things that would help the child's development physically. What is the Islamic ruling on ballet dancing?
You see, again, we are paving the way for something that might happen, something after their bulugh, na'udhu billah. Rather, Ahl Bayt would encourage that, for example, encourage your child to pray at this age, at 7, for example, or at 8. Let them fast at this age. They would encourage ibadat for the children. Ahl Bayt used to say that we would encourage them to pray at this age, and you encourage them to pray at this age and fast at the age. Ahl Bayt taught us to encourage our kids to do good things and something that pleases Allah Azza wa Jalla, and not to do things which are, we don't know what's going to happen afterwards, after the bulugh. So one should avoid such acts, because Allah, we don't know what's going to happen afterwards.
Very interesting question. Assalamu alaikum. I'm a Sunni girl and my boyfriend is a Shia man. We are not ready for marriage and he's suggesting mut'ah because we don't know if we should marry. Is that halal?
I mean, currently they are not in halal, so you're already committing haram. You're in a haram relationship, so of course the best way is to do it through the nikah contract, aqd of zawaj, which makes you both halal. Of course, if she is virgin, she needs to ask her parents' permission with this case. Otherwise, if not, then of course they have to go through the nikah contract to make it halal.
from YouTube, Sheikh, if Muslims go to a non-Muslim court to settle divorce, does this alimony become haram? I heard this from Sheikh. Okay, I'm not going to mention the name just in case that Sheikh said something wrong. But if a Muslims go to a non-Muslim court to settle divorce, does the alimony become haram?
Well, it's not legit for the one to seek divorce from the non-Sharia, let's say, courts. In this regard, that's not a divorce. You have to go to a Shari'i, let's say, court or Alim or whoever, with two witnesses, with all these conditions of divorce. Then you can seek a Shari'i divorce. You can't just go walk to the solicitor, for example, and paperwork, and that's it. You're divorced now. You can walk away and have your rights. No, you have to do it in a Shari'i way. So you can also do it in a legal way as well.
Very interesting question here. If someone I loved got married, is it still permissible for me to pray for my marriage with him? Sister, he's allowed 2 wives, 3, 4. If you love him that much, you can ask for to be the second wife or so forth. But Sheikhna, can I pray that my marriage be with someone who's already married?
Allah Azza wa Jal created this creation. Millions of men are out there. Many of them are believing men, working men. Allah Azza wa Jal may give you somebody who is more better than this individual. Yes, Allah knows. Maybe if you marry this individual, you might have been in dispute, in quarrel, in arguments, la samah Allah, and might end up with divorce. So you never know. So tawakkal Allah and find somebody else, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Is my mum's maternal uncle my mahram? Okay, so I'm assuming this is a female asking. That means the girl's grandmother's brother. So mum's brother. So I think it's called the khal in Arabic, of the mother to the daughter. Is that a mahram? Yes or no? Do you need some research on that? That's quite complicated.
I need to work this out. Yeah, inshallah.
Please allow us some time. Inshallah, next episode, which will be a Wednesday, we'll answer that. Sheikhna, can you tell me where I can find more information about Hawza in Iran? The best thing to do is probably to speak to someone who is studying in Iran, and they can help you out, depending on what country you are. Go to the Iranian embassy maybe and speak to them. They'll be able to direct you to scholars or people that can help you to get into the Hawza of Iran. Sheikhna, best way to get details on the Hawza of Iran and so forth?
If you have somebody in Qom, for example, a family or somebody who's in charge, let's say, they know somebody in the Hawza, they can talk to them, communicate, and try to find maybe a suitable Hawza for you that suits you, for example. Maybe you don't have to learn Farsi for this purpose. Sometimes you have to learn Farsi so you can get into the Hawza. Sometimes with your own language, there are, let's say, Urdu speaking Hawza, Arabic speaking Hawza, for example. So you have to do a bit of research.
Excellent. Sheikhna, if an event such as a solar or lunar eclipse or earthquake takes place and a woman is in a state of menstruation, is it mandatory upon her to perform Salatul Ayat?
No, it's not wajib for her to perform because she's in the state, and not even wajib to do that qada afterwards. Okay. But it's mustahab precaution. It's not wajib that she performs after she becomes tahir. Mustahab, but otherwise it's not wajib.
Sheikh, a final question for this evening, and that is, when I use tayammum as an alternative to wudu, do I have to remove the ring when performing the tayammum?
Yes, indeed, one should remove the ring and any other obstacle from the back of the hands. Make sure that when you do the tayammum, there's no obstacles. Like the wudu, make sure that the face, the forehead is clear from any obstacles, any plasters or paints and so forth, so that you can have your tayammum correct and valid.
Inshallah. Thank you very much, Sheikhna. Thank you to all of you for joining us on this episode of Ahkam SOS. If we didn't answer your question, we do apologize. And inshallah, we'll be able to roll those questions over to the next episode and answer them then. The next episode will be here on Wednesday, 7 o'clock, Imam Hussein TV 3, Sky Channel 789. If you have a question you'd like to send in, please send it in via the WhatsApp. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook Live, you can put it in the comment section. And inshallah, the technical team will be able to give it to us and we'll be able to answer those questions on the next episode. So join us then, 7 o'clock, Imam Hussein TV 3, Sky Channel 789. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
ما أشوف طريقي، لو أشوف إيش رايح لي. لا طريقي ما أشوفها، هسه أنا وين تحكين ما زبيت هيك ما عنده قريب عنده معدة عندي كلاس يعني ما نخبر يعني أنا كل أسبوع أنا أشري دواء كل أسبوع دواء يعني ما يلحق عليه. الغلب ذابحني بالغلب شودنا خابرني يما ما عندي اجاني يضطرني فلوس عشان اشتري العلاج الغلب هذا. اول البارحة ودتني للمستشفى سووا لي تخطيط طونا علاج طونا بر قالوا لي تعبان فدنا مرة عنده معدة عندي صدر علاجات كلت قلبي هذا الخفقان اشتري كل اسبوع 10 خفقان رقم 10 اخذه ب2000 دينار ب10 حباب ما يسوى لي 5 أيام. أخذ الحباية رجفها عنده تصير بي رجفة أخذ الحباية شوية يسكن علي. محتاجة غير علاج تعطوني علاج تديرون بالكم علي وأنا ما عندي كل شيء ما عندي راتب ولا كل شيء. وهو خبر اختتع ياخذ أمي خذها لي شهرين هنا لا دق علي لا قال أمي وين صارت لا قال لا أنا دق علي موبايلي وقال يما وين أنت شلون صرتي شلون لا والله أنا ويا وجدك محمد ما دق علي موبايلي وقال يما شلونك شلون صرت.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In today's hadith of the day, I'm going to share with you a saying from Imam Ali ibn Abu Talib alayhi salam. Imam Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam has said, as recorded in Ghurar al-Hikam, you should avoid self-admiration, having reliance upon what appears good in yourself, and love of exaggerated praise, because this is one of the most reliable opportunities for shaitan. As we know in Islam, arrogance is one of the worst traits that anyone can have and is one of the gravest sins in Islam. Islam seeks to humble us in order to soften our hearts so that we may be ready to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Islam and humanity. Imam Ali alayhi salam reminds us that even though the road to arrogance is a dangerous one, and that we should avoid admiring ourselves, be it for looks, what we may own or what we have achieved, and what a dislike for overpraise of ourselves from others, as these are opportunities for shaitan to push arrogance into our hearts. So let's promise ourselves to close all the doors to arrogance, attempt to keep our hearts sincere and our deeds solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.